What is the number one thing you wish you knew when you started cooking that took you maybe years to learn?
My number one tip for not destroying your kitchen is mise en place. Did I say that right?
I think so, or maybe it's mise en place. I've heard it both ways.
Yeah. So mise en place, you basically, when you're doing a recipe, if it calls for a medium onion diced, if it calls for 8 cloves of garlic minced, if it calls for a pound of mushrooms sliced, make sure you do that all your prepping in advance, and ideally put them in bowls, containers. It will make cooking a million times easier. Yeah, it really will make things so much easier for your cooking.
It really will. And Sammy's going to probably be upset, not that she listens to our podcast, but she's going to be upset that I'm mentioning her here. But she is 15 years old. She's been baking actually since she was 12 or so. But the one thing that she still doesn't do that we keep telling her, you really should do this, it'll make your life easier, is that when she's baking, like let's say she's making muffins, she'll go to the cabinet and take out the flour she needs, puts it in the bowl. Then she'll go to the cabinet and take out the cinnamon that she needs and put it in the bowl. Then she'll melt the butter or whatever. She does it kind of piecemeal. Whereas I'm like, you should just set up all the ingredients you need, measure them all out, and then you can just dump as you go.
Definitely. I mean, and it's not like it's probably more important when you're cooking because temperature and, say you're doing a saute and, I mean, God, if you're doing Chinese food, forget it. Everything is at ultra high heat.
Yeah, you need it all there.
100% essential. But, the term mise en place is a French term, obviously. But yeah, even with baking, it's such a pain to do it the other way. It's and I get it. I get why Sammy, she's 15. She doesn't know yet.
I didn't know to do it. Yeah.
Took me a long time. You could get away with it if you have like a very large kitchen and you have the ability to put like multiple cutting boards. You could probably work as you go, but it's just better to do it all in advance. And that's why I do it in advance. And then when we start the cooking videos, I have everything laid out and I go over it. That's when I do my ingredient monologue that Tara and maybe you are so impressed that I can do it with only one run. Sometimes two. That is
impressive.
Sometimes two, right?
Sometimes two. But it is impressive that you're able to do that monologue. And it's not scripted or
I made
anything.
The recipe the week before, so that helps.
Yeah.
And then I also am like in the recipe card a lot, like perfecting it. So
you're familiar with what's there. Yeah. But I think that even if you are familiar with it, it takes a certain type of person to be able to speak to all that on camera.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the formula anyway that we practice. And we do practice that formula, so the cooking videos are very instructional for you.
The number 2 thing you wish you would have known when you started cooking.
Okay. This one goes kind of hand in hand with the mise en place. This is clean as you go. So if you work in a French restaurant, they will obviously, and all restaurants do mise en place. They have to. Everything in a restaurant needs to be made in a very short period of time. The only way that it can be made in a short period of time is to have everything made, prepped in advance. It's very, very much like that. But the cleaning, whether it's a good restaurant will probably, really be hovering over all the different people in the kitchen, making sure they keep a clean work area. But it's essential. It just is. Like, there's nothing worse than to let dishes pile up in the sink, dirt and everything get on your cutting board and around on your island or your counter. So I always keep one wet rag. You could do a tiny bit of bleach with that. You could have like a bucket of water with a tiny bit of bleach diluted. And then I keep a dry cloth, multiple dry cloths. And the dry cloths can be used for grabbing hot stuff out of the oven. I typically will use my wet rag to wipe everything down. Then I'll just use a dry one to, get to dry it.
And one of the reasons to keep a clean sink is if you need to like rinse something, or if you need to drain, like I know we don't usually use the strainer to drain pasta, but if you are using that and you need to strain something, you want your sink to be clear. That's an important part of preparing food.
Yeah, because everything, the water will come up, and then it could be junky water, and it's just not good.
Just keep it as clean as you can. And if you have a dishwasher, you can certainly, before you even start cooking, if the dishwasher was run the day before, empty it, get it completely empty, and just start putting things in there as you go. All right, up next. This tip is something that we talked about in a previous podcast episode where we were talking about different types of pans. But this tip is the hot pan cold oil tip that took me until I was in my 40s to learn.
Yeah, so hot pan cold oil is essential if you're going to cook, if you're going to use a stainless pan. If you're using a nonstick, it doesn't matter. So nonstick, you can put your oil down, you can heat up your pan, let it get hot, add your stuff in. But with a stainless, you have to, or everything will stick. And then you'll never want to use stainless again. So that's we spoke about this in multiple episodes. We just did a whole pots and pan episode and spoke about it again. But I have a feeling that there is a large portion of people that use stainless a few times and give it up for not a year, but for decades.
That was me.
Maybe never to return.
That was me until I learned your trick, which actually we had somebody write in and tell us that she just heard that tip and tried it, and now stainless is her go-to. Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. And we're running through these kind of quickly so we can get to all of them. The next one, Jim, applies to making soups and chilies. What would you do to soups, chilies, and some other foods to make them so much better?
So to make soups and chilies,
and
stews and all that stuff that is like a bunch of stuff in a pot, just put it in the fridge. Make it in a Dutch oven. Put the cover on. Let it cool. Then put it in your refrigerator. One night. It will be a million times better the next day. If you do 2 nights, it'll be even better. The flavors just come together. And I'll give you an example how you can know this. You can make like any stew. You can make a beef stew. You can make beef bourguignon. You can make lentil soup. Taste it. No matter how much you season it, there'll be something missing. You'll be like, just stop there. Don't even add anything else to it. Put it in the refrigerator overnight. Taste it the next morning. You'll be like, wow, what happened here? Just time. That's all that happened. And it's done with Indian food all the time. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's why like that. All those pots of sauces, those things have been going for like days. So like when they put them in the pan, and the taste and the flavors just amazing. But if you try to make Indian food all like an hour before and you're going to eat it, the flavors don't meld enough. They don't come together enough.
Something's going to be missing if you do that. For sure. I agree. The next thing that you wish you would have known when you started cooking relates to stock. What do you have to say about stock? Beef stock, chicken stock?
So beef stock, chicken stock are great. They're phenomenal. But, practically speaking, you're not going to have it all the time in your house. You can make stocks and you can ultra concentrate them so you can store a lot of them in a small space in your freezer, but you still have to remember to have done it. You can use the Instapot and you can do a quick stock, relatively quickly, but you can just take the easy way out and it will be 90% as good, better than bouillon, beef, chicken base, or they even have like vegetable base and other ones. Awesome product.
Yeah. In fact, what video were we in where I taste tested your homemade
the prime rib, you said that.
Yeah, the au jus was better with the better than bouillon than your homemade, which that was like disproving we were trying to prove our point that homemade is better, but
well, I was also proving to you that our videos aren't scripted.
They're not.
I mean, you could easily tell in that video, it's the end of the video. I had my one made with homemade stock, and then I had in the video, the one I made was with the better than bouillon. Tara gave that one a better rating. I disagree, but it wasn't what I thought of it. It was what she thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are awesome. I recommend you use the beef and the chicken base. Costco is your friend there. The jars are much larger. I believe that a jar in Costco is about $8, maybe 10. And the large jars you get probably about 100 cups of stock from it versus, so think about this, $10 for that, you get 100 cups of stock versus you buy a box stock in the store. It's $4 to $6 for 4 cups.
The boxed stocks, I have not found a boxed stock that tastes good.
No, they taste bad.
They all taste bad.
I think the reason they taste bad is they can't, think about it, like it's not concentrated enough.
Yeah,
they're very
it's
thin.
I was going to say, it's very thin. It doesn't taste rich. It's just not, it just doesn't taste good.
You would think that the brands who do that would, like, at a minimum put a lot of gelatin into it to try to simulate that taste.
Maybe the ones that label themselves as bone broths do. I haven't tasted any of those, but I don't know. I have not found one that I'm impressed with at all.